And so after finish this line, the pen actually first go from wherever it starts with, then quickly goes to here, goes to the lower left corner of the house. The second line is join this line, so goes to Y2, so straight line up. And the third line doesn't even specify the G code. So the mode of which G code is using. Last line we used the G1. If you don't specify anything, then G1 will stay. So you are still using G1. And this time you move to 1.5 Y4. X 1.5 Y4 is at the top of the roof. So you just draw this line. And then you go to X3 Y2 is lower down to the right side of the roof, and then goes to Y0, means the axis is not changing, so just go along the Y axis to 0, then move to X0, so that will close the whole frame of the house. Then after this was done, at M40 we come back to G0. So we used to be in G1, now I changed to G0 because this motion, we're trying to lift up the pen. We don't really do any work. So just quickly lift up the pen to the height of 0.2 inches above the surface. Then while the tool is on top of the surface, we move it to X 1.5, Y 1.5. Where is it on the drawing? Where is X 1.5, Y 1.5? Top of the circle. So, but the pen is still on the paper. It's not actually on. It's on top of the paper, not on the paper. So, M50, we change to G1, and drop down to Z0. So the pen is dropped to the paper right on top of the circle. And the next line, M55. This M55 is a G2. G2 is a new code. It's called circular interpolation. Circular interpolation. So for any of the G code, the coordinates, it specifies the destination. You notice. So each line, I specify whatever the G code, whatever the XYZ is specified, it's a destination. It's a final spot. Where does it start from? It starts from previous step. Okay. And then, therefore, the G2 followed by X 1.5, Y 1.5, that's the ending point of the circle. What's the starting point of the circle? The same, right? They all at the same location. If the circle starts with the start and end with the same position, means that's a full circle. If the starting point and ending point is different, then it's a partial circle, right? So since starting and ending point is the same, theoretically, if you don't have any other information, you cannot define the circle yet. If you only know the starting and ending point, they happen to be the same, you can draw infinite number of circles. So this one, we know exactly what the circle is by specifying the location of the center. The location of the center can be specified using I and J. And the IJ is used to specify the location of the center of the circle. And the meaning of the IJ is the I is the incremental distance from the starting point to the center in the x direction. J is the increment distance from the starting point to the center in the y direction. So have you taken courses regarding to vector? Like in the math, you know vector, right? Vector is draw a line, a directional line from starting point to ending point, and the vector also can be used can use a complex number to represent that a real part and the imaginary part. The real part is I, the imaginary part is J. Okay. You can just think that way. So basically what we did is trying to make a vector from the starting point to the center. And the arrow is pointing towards the center. And you're trying to use the ij to express that vector. Okay. So let's say here we have I0, j negative 0.5. So what that means is the center have 0 distance in the x direction from the starting point and have 0.5 inch distance in the negative y direction. So the center is 0.5 inches below the starting point. Therefore, since the starting point is right here, therefore the center, according to the I and j, the center is right below the starting point by 0.5 inches. And once you have defined the location of the center, and you know the starting and the ending point, you can draw the circle. And the G2, G3, the difference of these two is G2 is a clockwise motion, G3 is a counterclockwise. So clockwise, you draw the circle this way. Counterclockwise, you draw the circle this way. So for this application, it makes no difference. So you always end up with the same circle. But in machining, sometimes it makes some difference in terms of quality or whatever. So depending on what type of tool you're using. Okay. So that's the G2, G3. That's probably among all the other code, that's the most difficult to comprehend or most difficult to grasp. So as long as you understand how to use the G2, G3, then the rest of the G code is pretty easy. And even if you are working with very sophisticated curves, with G1, G2, G3, these 3 codes, you can accomplish pretty much any curve. And as long as because any curve can be approximated by line, if the line is short enough. So even the circle can be approximated by line. And actually the very first NC controller, what the working principle is using very tiny line movement to approximate everything, including circle. So if you look at the real trajectory of a circle, it's actually very, very small line segments in x and the y direction to approximate that. And we just showed you for x and the y, the smallest distance the machine can differentiate is 0.1 inch, 0.1 thousandth inch. So a circle like this with 1 inch diameter, it can easily just using line segment to approximate that without, you won't be able to notice anything from naked eye. Okay, so N60, we get back to G0, so that's a fast move, and move to Z.5, 0.2. So that step is actually lifting up the pen. And then we goes to X0, Y2, where is it? N65. N65, we're going to, right now we are here, we just finished draw the circle. We lift up the pen and we quickly move to the left top corner of the wall. Right? Then the next step we are going to drop down the pen, which is N70. We go G1, Z0 is the location of Z is right on the paper with a feed of 40. And the feed has been changed to 15 in the circular motion. At the end of the G2, we have F15. Why we actually changed the feed for circular motion? because circular motion actually involves reverse. So last time we went to the drawing, I actually asked you to notice the motion of each axis. They have forward and backwards. Therefore, they involve some acceleration, deceleration. If you run the circle, actually the difficult part of CNC machining is those very small circles, arc. It's very small radius. If you're trying to run the arc with very high speed, so you tend to generate error because of the acceleration of those individual axes. Let's go to N75. N75, we were at the lower top left corner of the house. Now 75 actually makes you to draw the line, draw the straight line to X3, because the Y is not changing, so we are moving along the X-axis alone. N80 is G0. We lift up the pen again, and then we move to X 1.75, Y 2.25. Where is it? It's the lower right corner of the window, right? This one, the window. And then we drop down the pen again at N90. N95, we have a new code, G91. Remember what G91 means? Increment motion. So starting from now on, I forgot what the original is. So wherever I'm standing right now is my 0. So all the X, Y, Z is measuring from the current location. So the G95 specified X negative 0.5. What's that mean? I'm going to move from the current position by 0.5 inches to the left, to the negative X direction. So to the left means right now I'm here, I move 0.5 inches to the left to draw this line. Okay. Then the next line is Y 0.5, therefore I just move up 0.5 inches up in the positive Y. Then I have positive X 0.5, negative Y 0.5. Okay, so I finished the window. So that's the occasion that if you don't want to or don't care to calculate the coordinates for all these 4 vertex for the window, then this is a convenient way to do the drawing, because we know the length, but we don't want to use the length to calculate the coordinates. Then you can simply use the information of the length, the height, to do the drawing. So, but after you are done with the window, you want to make sure that you change back to G90, because G91 is the increment mode. It's more dangerous. You can actually mess up things. For instance, if that's your last move, you are done, but you forgot to change the back, and the consequence might be next time the other operator comes in, because by default it's absolute motion. If you type in, like for instance, Z0, what the machine will do in the increment mode,
stay right there.
Stay right there, because Z0 is moving 0 distance. 0 distance is nothing, so it stay there. So the operator may get confused that supposedly he was trying to bring the tool to the workpiece, but nothing happened. So he may think that the machine is bad or something's wrong, but actually nothing is wrong. It's just the mode is wrong. The mode should get back to the absolute mode, then everything is fine. So that's why in the next line, they actually directly get back to G90. So this just give you an idea in which case, in which situation, the increment mode is more convenient. Okay, G90, then also G0, Z 1.5, you simply just lift up pen by 1.5 inches. And N120 is M code M2. M2 just tell the machine this is the end of the program. And also the other function serve is to bring the cursor or bring the focus back to the starting point. So next time, suppose that's a real machining program. After you finish one part, you take the part out, you put another part in. Then you can just hit the start button again and it will start running. You don't have to reload the program. So everything will be set to go.